Morning, everyone, and
Morning.
welcome to the White House. To the First Lady, Dr. Biden, thank you for again opening this remarkable place for this particular celebration, but also for being such an extraordinary role model for women and girls here in our country, but also around the world, and for your sustained efforts to advance the rights and dignity of all people. So we're joined today by officials from across the United States government, each one of them a remarkable leader and role model in their own right. Samantha Power, USAID Administrator. Jen Klein, the Director of the White House Gender Policy Council. Someone who really needs no introduction, Karine Jean-Pierre, White House Press Secretary. Emery Ruiz, the White House Political Director. Dr. Geeta Rao Gupta, the Ambassador at Large for Global Women's Issues. Geeta's obviously stacked the deck here. And Desiree Cormier-Smith, the Special Representative for Racial Equity and Justice, who I'm so proud to serve alongside of at the State Department. I also want to acknowledge our team at the Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs, led by Assistant Secretary Lee Satterfield. Thank you, Lee. They are doing so much every single day to build bridges of understanding between the United States and the world, including bringing together our awardees with U.S. public servants and advocates so that they can learn from each other and boost one another. Now, this year's International Women of Courage are simply extraordinary. They're advocating for domestic workers in Bangladesh and people with disabilities in Afghanistan. They're exposing corruption in Uganda, combating sexual harassment in Japan, standing up for the children of wartime rape in Bosnia and Herzegovina, fighting for democracy in Belarus. We're honoring a dozen women. There's one who couldn't join us today, Marta Beatriz Roque Cabello, an unyielding defender of human rights in Cuba. Cuban authorities have subjected Marta to a long campaign of detention and abuse, including prohibiting her from traveling abroad. Marta may not be able to be with us today in person, but we want her to know all of us are with her every single day. I think Marta would be the first to say that her struggle is not hers alone. Governments and societies around the world look to silence, to intimidate outspoken women through imprisonment, through harassment, through violence, through death threats, through the repression of their families and their colleagues. For these women, and so many activists like them around the world, courage is a deliberate and daily choice. Women and girls demonstrate similar bravery in places that are racked by conflict and insecurity, even as they are disproportionately harmed by that violence. We also witness the quiet daily strength of women who persist despite the obstacles to their rights, their participation, their basic chances in life, from unequal political and economic power to gender-based violence. Whether on the front lines of war or on the front lines of social change, women are often the most powerful engines for progress. The United States stands with every woman of courage, working to build greater stability, greater equality, and greater opportunity. And we are committed to knocking down the barriers that prevent women and girls from reaching their full potential alongside them. That's why championing the rights of women and girls in all of their diversity is a central part of our foreign policy. Over the past 3 years, we've put forward concrete strategies, policies, programs to support women and girls around the world. It's not simply rhetorical, It's practical, from increasing their political participation to ensuring that they're parts of things like the clean energy transition. Last year, President Biden requested a doubling of foreign aid to promote gender equity abroad, a historic $2.6 billion. Supporting women and girls is not only the right thing to do, it's the smart and necessary thing to do. And we know this in so many different ways. We've seen this. The more women serve in legislatures, the less likely countries are to actually go to war. If we were able to close the gender gap around the world in the worldwide workforce, we would add an estimated $28 trillion to the global economy. Just imagine what we could do to better societies around the world with those kind of resources. Simply put, when women do better, we all do better. As we advance the rights and dignity of women around the world and of all people around the world, we will continue to look to learn from, to be inspired by our partners in government, the private sector, and civil society, including the women that we're celebrating here today. Now, one of our honorees, Fariba Balouch, has been subjected to persistent threats from Iranian security forces, but that has not deterred her. She put it this way: "This is my path. This is my responsibility. I refuse to be silenced." That insistence that determination to speak up, to speak out, to take action, to refuse the status quo, that's reflected in all of the extraordinary women that we recognize today. And it's exhibited every day as well by the woman that I now have the great privilege to introduce, the First Lady of the United States, Dr. Jill Biden.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you, Secretary Blinken. Tony, your steady presence, your vision, your character make you an incredible Secretary of State. Thank you for everything you do. And yes. And it's no accident that I think they seated you in front of Evan so you can see one another. And second gentleman, Emhoff, Doug, you show us how important it is to have men join this fight. You're an advocate for women and girls, helping to lift up voices that need to be heard. And isn't he the best second gentleman ever? And I too would like to say thank you to Jen Klein and her team at the White House, the Gender Policy Council, for the first of its kind, for their work advancing the rights of women and girls around the world. And my gratitude to the State Department's Office of Global Women's Issues, led by Ambassador Gupta, for their partnership. And a special welcome to the members of the Washington Diplomatic Corps. And we have former Secretary Albright's family with us. Alice, thank you for carrying forward her legacy. Alice, please stand. There is a kind of silence that hangs in the air around us, even in a crowded room. It sits beneath the ordinary, the blurs of our conversations, between the rumble of car engines and the pounding of rain. It's the silence of children lost to war and violence, of men who no longer speak of their dreams because they can't picture what's ahead, of women whose words are smothered by communities and governments who wish to hold them back, who have wounds and spirits it will take time to mend, who speak but go unheard. It's the hush that falls when hope is so hard to find, under an authoritative thumb when rights slip away. The silence that seems to swallow cries for justice, for freedom, for equality. The women on this stage have refused to bend to that silence. You've spoken out for yourselves and for others in the face of fear and risk, and those who have tried to steal your voices away. As I read your stories, I was struck by that inner strength that each of you hold, a strength that you held on to even as others hoped to censor you, hoped you would stay quiet, that helped you raise your voices even when you were afraid, that helps you shout even when you're tired and say, "We cannot wait. We deserve more now." Because change never happens on its own. There is power in the community of women, in this community. Power when our voices come together to hold each other up, even when we want to crumble, to heal one another, and to share that inner strength, to create lasting change. You're giving others opportunities greater than what you had, standing behind the next generation of courageous women so the confidence of girlhood can become the courage of womanhood. So your daughters and nieces and all the girls coming after never have to worry if their voices are too loud, never have to fear if their bodies won't be their own, never have to shrink so that their brothers can swell. Because of you, they will fill that silence with their ideas and with their dreams. They will reach for the breath of the world with joy that never extinguishes, boldness that never wavers, determination that only grows. Together, we will keep chipping away at the quiet that haunts our world. And while there may be those who wish for us to fall silent, we will never fall, because the steepness of the struggle will not stop our ascent. That's why we lift you up today, so your great acts of courage can inspire others to perform their own, big and small. Your voices carry across oceans and continents, calling to the women and girls who need to hear your stories, and to the men and the boys who need to hear them too. It's a song of the future reverberating through us, so we too can speak out and be the seekers of justice, the defenders of freedom, because our chorus can topple tyrants and demagogues and shatter oppression, because your fight is all our fight, and we are stronger than any force that hopes to silence us. Thank you.
Wait. It takes courage to speak out. Let me say that one more time. It takes courage to speak out. The women on the stage know this. My parents, who grew up in Haiti under a dictatorship, knew this. They saw powerful people attacking the press, arresting activists, and cracking down on free speech. That's why they moved to the United States seeking freedom and democracy. Because of what they went through, I have spent my career speaking out, advocating for policies to protect those who are marginalized, fighting for the freedoms we all deserve. It is my privilege of my life to serve by speaking out as White House Press Secretary on behalf of President Joe Biden. The women we honor today spoke out, obviously, and we're so proud of them. In the face of violence, oppression, and fear, they stood strong. They rose up against shame, against set ways of thinking, against harassment, against abuse. And in them, we see the power our words can have and why so many wish to stop their tide. Because their words have inspired thousands of women, changed laws and practices, and made life better for the next generation. With that, I think we're going to see a video, I hope.
Did you just ad lib that?
Maybe not. Okay. It's coming. It's coming. So, Aina Yusik founded the Forgotten Children of War Association to advocate for the rights of children born of rape during war. Ms. Yusik helped pass a law, the first of its kind in the world, to give legal rights to children born of wartime sexual violence and help them emerge from the shadows. Oh, there you go. Thank you so much. At the age of 11, Rina Goinoi and her family were victims of the tragic triple disaster in Japan, the tsunami, earthquake, and nuclear accident. When a woman Japan self-defense force officer assisted her family during the evacuation, Ms. Goinoi was inspired to join the force. After facing sexual harassment and abuse there, Ms. Goinoi shared her story and empowered more than 1,000 other women to come forward, leading the force to change its ways. A survivor of female, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me give that to you. Thank you so much. I went too fast there, I apologize. A survivor of female genital mutilation, or FGM, Fatou Balde tirelessly educates people in Gambia about the dangers of FGM in a country where 75% of women have endured some form of it despite an existing ban. Her proudest achievement, saving her own 11-year-old niece from FGM and breaking the cycle of violence in her own family. In Morocco, Rabah al-Haimar fought to spare her daughter a life of marginalization and discrimination as a child without legal documentation. She bravely shared her story in a groundbreaking documentary to help break the stigma facing children like hers. Ms. Al-Hamar hopes her efforts will protect the rights of all women and children and empower them as full and equal citizens. Okay, thanks everybody.
Please welcome Special Representative for Racial Equity and Justice, Desiree Cormier-Smith.
We are all inextricably linked in a network of humanity. This is the core of the African concept of Ubuntu. I am because you are. That means that when legal systems fail to protect some, it has implications for us all. But it takes true courage to seek justice when powerful forces prevail. The women we honor today are the embodiment of such courage. They are fearless advocates for laws that protect all people without regard to one's gender, background, or beliefs. They refuse to stay silent in the face of injustice. They strive to transform broken systems that persecute the oppressed and fail to live up to the promise of equality, fairness, and humanity for every citizen. Why do they do it, even in the face of great risk to themselves and their families? Because they understand Ubuntu. Or, as the great Black feminist, professor, and poet Audre Lorde put it, quote, I am not free while any woman is unfree, even when her shackles are very different from my own, end quote. The women we honor today give their communities hope, and their stories have the power to inspire others around the world to follow their lead. Without their perspectives and inclusion, without the participation of all women in all their diversity for that matter, there can be no true justice. The very survival of our network of humanity relies on such heroes, their unwavering belief in the principle of Ubuntu, and their fearless commitment to making this world a better place for us all. We are going to skip the video, and now Dr. Biden and Secretary Blinken will present the awards. Oh,
that each will be presented.
maybe we won't skip the video.
My name is Yasmin. I'm a lawyer for Myanmar. Over the past 10 years, I've represented hundreds of individuals in the criminal justice system. I'm committed to ensure the protection of legal rights, especially to the marginalized community. Individual rights have been limited, making my work more important than ever.
Dr. Biden and Secretary Blinken will present the awards. First, Bangladeshi Supreme Court advocate Fauzia Karim Firoz is a fighter for the rights of victims of exploitation and marginalization. As chairperson of the Foundation for Law and Development, Ms. Firoz helped win a landmark ruling to protect the rights of domestic workers. She has helped thousands of garment workers and sexual harassment survivors defend their rights. Minzu Win, a veteran criminal defense lawyer, is a champion for the rights of marginalized people across Burma. In addition to representing hundreds of clients pro bono, she also leads a legal aid team focused on training lawyers to help those most in need. Congratulations. Journalist, lawyer, and social justice activist Agatha Atuhar has brought light to sexual harassment, abuses of power, and violations of human rights in Uganda. At great personal risk, Ms. Agater seeks to hold leaders accountable and has led to changes in the Ugandan Ministry of Health and Parliament. Congratulations. Volya Harbonova was imprisoned by the Lukashenko regime after organizing women's marches. While in prison, she suffered psychological torture and threats of death. Ms. Harbonova now bravely advocates for the release of political prisoners and provides support to their families as a member of the Belarusian Democratic Movement in exile. Please join me once more in congratulating these brave women.
Please welcome USAID Administrator Samantha Power.
Hello, everyone. It has always taken bravery and stubbornness to stand up for human rights. But today, the threats that human rights activists and defenders face, from threats to their families, to legal retribution, to imprisonment and outright violence at the hands of those who would prefer to see them silenced, those threats are grave, and sadly, they are growing. In 2022, more than 400 human rights defenders were murdered, the highest number ever recorded in a single year. I am in awe of the women we are honoring today for their courage. They refuse to back down because of a shared conviction captured by Fatima Corozo, one of the women we are recognizing today. As she puts it, courage, even in the face of danger and fear, is the driving force to achieve positive change. The women we are honoring live this conviction every minute of every day. They have been unjustly imprisoned. They have been driven from their homes or trapped inside their homes. They have seen their families and their colleagues attacked, or they have received death threats and been assaulted themselves. But they do not relent. They go on fighting. They fight for the rights of political prisoners. They organize movements to bring services to marginalized communities. They publish articles, they host rallies, and they call out injustice wherever they can. Even in the most dangerous places, against all odds, they are continuing their work, demonstrating incredible, inspiring courage, and putting their lives on the line to defend human rights. Let us pause now for a video.
As a person who is advocating for the rights of people with disability and as a human rights defender, I will work for all Afghan women and I will dedicate all my life for my goal. I am Banafsha Yaqubi, a human rights and people with disability rights activist from Afghanistan. We tried to work for people with disability inside the country. We established an organization named DIRECTO. While I was in Iran, I faced with lots of discrimination. I went to an NGO. He helped me as a human being, not as a person who is not from Iran or who is this or who is that. So at that time, I made my decision. If I go back to my country,